Hello and welcome back to the ME7 podcast. As you can see to the man to the right of me, he made 100 appearances for the Gills, 4 on a loan spell, and then 96 across a 3-year spell across the Gills. But we cannot forget, can we? He added, during that 3-year spell, a League Two title winning medal. Today, we're joined by title winning midfielder Charlie Lee. Charlie, how are you, mate?
Really well, thank you. Really.
Good. Yeah, Charlie, we were obviously messaging during the week and arranging times, and it was difficult because obviously you're out in Australia now. But it's amazing to get you on. But yeah, you obviously I mentioned to you during the week that it's 10 years this year that you'd won the title, and you couldn't believe it.
I can't believe how quickly it's gone. It still feels like last week. I can remember the whole season. Incredible time in my life and my family's life. We literally loved it. And it's a season that I know everyone involved with, fans, players, staff, will always remember, because it was just one of those weird seasons out of nowhere that just was unbelievable.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. We're going to get onto that, but yeah, let's go back to 2010 then, because you and your mate Welkdale rocked up from Peterborough on loan, and we thought, oh my god, like, who are these two superstars? Because you hit the ground running. It was a fantastic. It was 4 games, but it was 4 games far too short. Tell us how the move sort of initially come about in 2010.
Well, it come out of nowhere really, because I was having a really good time at Peterborough. Me and Chris both were. It was going really well. Then we struggled in the Championship, the whole team, and we got a new manager in, Gary Johnson, and he wanted to make a fresh start. So a lot of the players that Darren Ferguson had brought in, he wanted to start moving on and trying to go a new way, which no problem. Like, we started the season, played quite a lot of games, and then it was getting to a point where I was on the bench a lot, and I thought, this isn't really what I like. So I like playing football. So I asked to go on loan, and the first thing they said, you can go on loan, but you can't go to a League One club. I had a couple of League One clubs in for me. So then we literally just put it out, said, let's go out on loan. I don't care where it is. There's some good leagues. And Hess got straight in contact and said, we'll take both of you 100%. And we spoke to him, and he was brilliant. And a lot of people said it might not be the best loan move. You can get someone a bit higher up the league. But I was like, no, listen, they really want me. The manager wants me. He's a great guy. And I just want to play football. And we both had it in our minds that when we looked, we had this incredible record of not winning away for so long. And we both looked and said, we're going there and we're going to win away. We're going to change that straight away. We had something, we set our mind to it. And I think, excluding the first home game where I think Callum got sent off in the first minute of my debut for Gills, the next away game was Oxford, and we won 1-0, and it was a great little spell. And so I tried to stay after, but I got recalled by Peterborough.
Yeah, did that first day when you sort of went through that Priestfield door? Did you ever think that it was going to turn out the way it did across the next 4 years?
I did. I went into Gills. I knew there was good players in that team. They were underachieving. That they had some good Odie players. I knew Barchi, Andy Barcham. And you just thought, this team is way too good to be doing. You had Bayo up top, and you just thought, well, there's no way we're not going to win games here, especially with the confidence that me and Chris had. We'd had really good seasons. We'd had a couple of promotions. We just thought this is going to be. And then during the month, it was like, I want to stay here.
Yeah.
His said to me, look, I want you to stay, and if you're available at the end of the season, we'd love to get something done, maybe. And I was like, do you know what? If I went, and luckily at the end of the season, Crawley come in and bid for me. They come in and bid for me, and I was like, listen, if I'm going anywhere, I'd like to go Gills. And spoke to and he made it happen. And the first season we come back wasn't probably wasn't where we wanted to be, but there was a lot of turnovers. It was a bit harsh on the manager, really, because big changeovers. And then Martin Allen comes in, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, like, just going back to because we had a couple of mad results during that sort of loan spell that you had with Welks. That we obviously beat Oxford, then we went on the Tuesday night and won again at Barnet. And you scored. I'm pretty sure you scored at Barnet.
Yeah, I think we both.
Yeah, I think you both scored.
Yeah.
And I remember sort of being in. I was in both the crowds that both at Oxford and Barnet, and that sense of feeling from the fan base was, we have got two just championship quality players here that are just streets and levels above what we've got in this current group. Did you feel that from the fan base, that you were just immediately taken to by the fans straight away?
Yeah, because I remember it was about that sort of time, really, that social media was having a much more bigger impact. So for the first time in my career, social media was becoming bigger, and fans were being able to tell you, and it was a really good time. And we gave I just bought into it straight away. We was there to win games. I've had frustration with other players since then, where they've come on loan and probably not wanted to buy into the way or really care about winning. I just thought, I'm here. If I'm winning games, it's going to be better for me. So, and the players were brilliant. They embraced us, and to be honest, we did play really well for 4 games. We made a big difference. So that does help. When you go on loan, you want to make a difference.
Yeah, obviously, like you said earlier, that 2011 come around, it come to the end of the season, and there was rumours sort of flying around that you and Welt were coming back and whatever else, and then bang, you through the door, both of you, and I'm pretty sure you got announced. It was either together or it was on the same day, and it was amazing to have you sort of both in the building. It was brilliant. Tell us sort of how that move come about. I know you said that there's only one place that you were going to go, which was Gills, but was the conversation just simple of Peterborough didn't want you anymore, and Hess was like, right, we're having you back?
Yeah, obviously it had been a really good spell, and when I went back to Peterborough, I ended up playing every game to the end of the season. We got promoted again, so I literally played. Then we got promoted up. It was an unbelievable season because I had a great loan spell. Then we got promoted, and during that, in the end of the season, we got back up to the championship, and the manager was like, "Listen, you're a really good player. Both of you are great players, but I feel like if we want to have a real go in the championship now, we have to make some changes." And at this point, Crawley had already put a bid in, and so at the time, Crawley had just come up from the league. They had loads of money, just come into League Two, and to be honest, I wasn't really sure about it. I didn't really like it.
Was Evans the manager then?
Evans manager. It just didn't seem right for me. And at that time, I didn't think Gillingham, it was a possibility. It seemed like it weren't going to happen. So we was looking for other teams. I spoke to a few good teams in League One who couldn't get anything done with money that Peterborough were asking and stuff like that. And then out of nowhere, we got a call from Hess, and he was like, "Listen, I think we can make this happen. Are you willing to drop down?" Because at the time, I still had a year left in the Championship, and I was making the drop down to League Two. But if I was going to drop down to League Two, it would have only been for Gillingham, because I knew I liked it there. I loved the facilities, believe it or not. I loved being at the stadium. It was close. So I knew that I'd be moving back to where I was growing up, where my family was living, and it just seemed like a really good fit. And once we knew it was done, I couldn't wait to get it through the door.
Was Welch sort of the same opinion then? Was he a bit of a tough bargain?
No, Welch was up for it, because again, we'd had 4 years of playing non-stop football. I'd literally been in the team the whole time, and the only spell I'd spent out of the team, I went to Gills and played. So we was like, well, I'm not going to sit. I know it's great being in the Championship again, but I'm not going to sit there on the bench every week or out of the squad. So it was a no-brainer. And I think when we thought that we'd go together, we got on really well. We'd signed for Peterborough at the same time, and it probably made it easier knowing that we'd be in the car school together, travelling down. And and I loved I loved Hess. Hess was class. So time for him.
Yeah, was you surprised that you said about obviously going back to Peterborough, you got that promotion? Was you surprised that coming the end of the season that it was a case of like, yeah, don't like Rugby Championship don't really want you anymore, considering you played every single game for the promotion? You'd thought surely you'd be given somewhat of a crack at it.
Yeah, I think if I'd have stayed there, the manager still liked me, but it got a bit with everyone like Barry Fry. It got a bit. I didn't really like the way I was treated after. Told at the promotion party that there'd been a bid and they're going to accept it, and I was like, oh, I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
I felt and I later found out the manager had no idea about this. So I literally found out about 2 weeks later. The manager didn't even know, but they obviously thought that they could get probably someone better than me. And I was one of the players, like I think it was about 4 or 5, but I was one of the players who had interest of people willing to get me there. So they got me for free and they was going to get some money for me and maybe easier for everyone else. And it ended up being a really good move. So I got no regrets at all.
Yeah, obviously 2011, you mentioned earlier that it was a weird season. Very, very weird. We'd go and be beaten 7-4, but then we'd win 6-0. Then obviously we had the 5-4 game that you just incredible in. That 5-4 was a ridiculous game against Hereford. And yeah, it was a crazy season, wasn't it? But we scored so many goals, but we just couldn't defend, could we?
No, I felt bad. The players let us down that season because we had a good squad, but I still think, unfortunately, there was a few players that in the team that knew that this was going to be their last season there. There'd been a bit of a change around. We brought in, and unfortunately, we had a squad of maybe 20 or 18, and there was only probably 12 that Hess really trusted and wanted to play. So he done really well in the end, and we should have made the playoffs. It was poor defending, mistakes, and we had so much threat going forward. But yeah, as you say, we let in too many goals, and we would have been the sort of team that season if we'd have made the playoffs. We'd have had a right go because we could score against anyone, anytime. But and obviously, Hess probably, in my opinion, deserved to be there next season because he'd already put it into practice, getting ready for the next people to come in to have the squad that he really wanted.
Yeah.
And he didn't really get that. But as I say, it ended up being the owner, the chairman, everyone who made the decision to replace him. It obviously worked out really well for Gillingham.
Yeah, because let's like highlight a couple of games that year. Like, I mean, Hereford must have absolutely hated us because like we went and smashed them. We went and smashed them at their place. And then the game at Priestfield was just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, you obviously coming up right back, I believe.
Yeah, so I reckon
talk us through it.
That's the game in my career I probably played where I was the most injured I've ever been and played in a game. So I was obviously injured. I'd been out, but Jack Evans had been doing a great job, young lad, thrown in. So many injuries we had. And I remember I trained on the Friday and it didn't feel great, but the manager said, listen, I need you for a bit of experience on the bench. And if you come on for 20, I was like, yeah, I'll be able to do it. I'm always up for it. And then I remember 5 minutes before half time, he looked at me and went, can you do 45? And I was like, yeah, I'm bang up for it. He went, just go right back. Just keep the guy, I think it was Barkhausen, when it left mid, having an absolute world. He was like, don't get forward. Just stay in there. Keep him quiet and we'll get goals. And that was the team talk guy. And then I went out and scored 2 goals from right back. So I obviously did.
I remember Hess's press conference after the game, and he almost looked like he not enjoyed it because he was absolutely fuming at our defending, I think.
It was awful. Some of the defending was awful. Even me, once I've scored a couple of goals and I was looking for the winner, and then suddenly we'd let in 3 and 4. I was like, oh no, we're not even doing. We've let in 4 goals. I was like, oh Jesus, I'm bombing on down the right wing, injured. But it ended up working. And when Gav put in the fifth, well, I couldn't even run to the corner. I was knackered.
Wow.
Only played half.
Did it sort of sum up our season in sort of a game, Charlie, that we were such a threat going forward, but we just were laughable sort of at the back at times?
Yeah, it got to a point where you just thought, what? Again, I always say I just felt so sorry because we couldn't set up as just sitting there and defending. We let in goals. We had people so injured all season. We relied on people that were injured the whole year. It was incredible. Like people having to come back from injury, go in. The luck we had there was so bad, especially in defence. We had Kingy just trying to play as much as he can. Gal, everyone tried to be fit as much as they could, but it didn't work. But going forward, we always had people who could score. So it was just one of those things. I think I dread to think how many different variations of back four we played that season.
Yeah, Simon King was on his day a ridiculous player, wasn't he?
He was so good, but that season was. It was hard. It was hard because he was trying so hard, and he'd have half an hour of being brilliant, and you could just see he was in agony. So,
yeah.
I
mean, you talk about Hess. Obviously, he didn't completely leave because obviously in the summer of 2012, Martin Allen arrived, and it was the start of something special. Obviously, I've been to the Legends Nights that I went to the last one that obviously I met you and Danny and Martin was there, and you could see straight away that he still sort of sees you as his players. And I know you and Danny were sort of calling him Gaffer all evening. Is that sort of the relationship you've still got with Martin? Is that just that sort of just level of respect that what he did for you?
Yeah, he's just what we worked out very quickly is he is a bit crazy, but for a reason. Everything he does, he wants to get the best out of the players around him, and out of it, he brought in some really key players as leaders, and we managed to keep great players that we had, and we did have really good players at Gillingham when he come in, and when we went to Latuke, we knew coming back was like, listen, whatever happens this season, I don't want to play. I wouldn't want to play against us because we knew going into that first game that teams are not going to want to play us because we're going to do anything we can to win. We will foul sometimes, but we'll just go again, relentless. That's what the team were. And we knew that from coming out. And that was because our leader, the gaffer, was relentless in everything he did.
Yeah, obviously Martin, he's got sort of a reputation of just keeping clubs up. It was always he always took jobs to keep us up. But when he took our job, I'd always sort of wanted Martin Allen as a fan just because of his reputation. You as players, when you started first sort of hearing the rumours of Martin Allen and everything else, what was sort of your take on it? Did you have sort of opinion, or was it kind of open-minded? Let's see what happens.
I was at first. I weren't really. I felt I wanted Hess to stay. That was when he went, and then suddenly, and I remember sitting in the change room saying to people, "We've let him down there. We let the manager down because you never know." I've been in change rooms. We lost Aaron Ferguson, and we had a procession of managers at Peterborough, and it didn't quite work. I'm like, you don't know who's coming. It's not always better than we can do well, and then you worry. Then you hear all the names linked with the names, and so many get thrown out. And although we knew Martin Allen was a possibility, he was one of probably 20 names that gets thrown around in the changing room or in the little WhatsApp groups and stuff that we was doing. And then when he got named, you just all started talking about everyone knows the Martin Allen story or someone who's played for him, and and then it was a bit of like the anticipation of going back into pre-season to see like, oh, is it going to be as crazy as everyone says it is? And I was a little bit not scared, but I always back myself to be in the team. I always think I always think back myself. If you let me play, I'll get in your team. But you do worry that you're going to clash with a new manager. And I remember after the first week, you just knew. We had a week of just doing running, but the way he was, he's so relaxed. He used to sit on his chair, lean back while we were running, and you just thought, oh, this guy's it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah. What was the first? Do you remember the first chat? Like, do you remember the initial sort of meeting with Martin? What was it?
Oh, it was the same, and he kept it all the way through. His meetings were hilarious. Sometimes he meant them to be hilarious. Sometimes he didn't. They were serious, but you just could you just laugh because he's the way he does it. And as I got older, I look back, and even some of the weirdest meetings you have, including the first one, and you just think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like, and I've probably told you this story. Like, still to this day, I think we had that incredible start where we had, like, I don't know, 30 points after 12 games or something stupid. You'll probably know more what we had, but we didn't lose many in the first. And he in and wrote a number. It was like 128 on the board and said, "That's how many points we're going to get this season." And we all started laughing, and he went ballistic. He was like, "Well, what are you all doubting? You're saying we can't do it." He said, well, "Tell me one team that we can't beat." And then we was all set. And we walked out of there thinking, I literally walked out of that meeting expecting to get 120 points. And then when I spoke to him later on, he's like, "No, I knew we'd get nowhere near. We'd run out of energy because I run you too hard. But I just hoped if we had so many points, we'd cruise over the line at the end like we did." And I was just knew in that moment that our issue was going to be didn't have a big squad. He did work us really hard, that we might have some tough games at the end where we'd drop points, but hopefully we'd have just done enough to cruise over, and it worked exactly like that.
Yeah, you obviously had an unbelievable team behind him. Obviously, John Schofield was his assistant. James Russell, who's still there today. I speak to James all the time, and he absolutely loves talking about the times and whatever else. Was that key to Martin's sort of recipe, that he had that unbelievable team behind him and around him to sort of keep his message going, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. That they were all. He knew he had staff, and to be fair, the fans bought into it really quickly. But he had staff and players who would, like he would run for the proverbial brick wall for him. They would do anything for him, and what he did is he managed to keep a squad of 16, 17 players. You don't keep everyone happy, but the 17 probably players that he trusted the most, he kept them happy all season, even when they weren't playing. I remember we had that thing where Jack Payne would play at home, and then we'd go away and he'd put Steve in or Monty in. He never played Jack at some of the away games because he didn't trust him defensively. But he kept them both happy. He kept everyone happy. And everyone just thought, oh, if I'm not playing, it's no problem. I'll come on and make a difference. So
yeah, did you ever think, like, I mean, the amount of times that he changed the team throughout the season, it was ridiculous, and we were all sitting there thinking, my God, like, what team is he going to play today? Like, did you ever think as players, like, my position's not safe, or was it a case of he'd explained it so well that everyone was just like, yeah, it's fine, like, we know our roles?
it got a bit weird because even for me, I started the first 11 games until I got injured against Southend, and then I had about 6 weeks out. I started about 6 different positions: left mid, right mid. I played at 10. I played holding midfield. I started one game at centre half, and I'd always done that at Peterborough for myself, so I was used to it. But a few other the players weren't. They was like, "What is going on?" Like, and he would pick teams and it was all specific teams for certain games. And by the end, you go to get near to Christmas, and you didn't really care what he did. Like, if he'd have put me in goal, I'd have been like, "Yeah, let's go, let's have a go. I'm up for it." At the start, it was a bit weird getting used to it. Like, we'd set up games where it'd be like Welp's right back, and the whole game he just hits diags to meet left midfield to head it, and you'd be like, "What's he doing that for?" And then you turn up, and the right back's 5'3", and all we're doing is hitting diags onto my head. So it made sense. So we bought into it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean the front. Yeah, I mean let's go through the team. I mean Stu Nelson, he was an unbelievable character. I remember you two were always just up to no good and just playing tricks and everything else. What was he like to have as a teammate?
He's class. I had him. I'd known Nels for years. I had him at the end of my career at Yeovil as well. Really, just an incredible guy. he's an absolute pure athlete as well. His body, he looks like the old men's health guy. But I wouldn't want to spend one day in his body though. He's 24 hours a day. He has to focus on that. So he needs to go and eat an Oreo or something. But
then we got Fish.
he was
that
season.
It was a joke, wasn't it?
I didn't know he was that. He didn't. Fishy, nothing really stood out about him that he was going to be that strong for us. And bloody hell, he was good.
Yeah,
he was man of the match about 10 times that season.
Where did it come from?
I have no idea. No idea.
And the goal. He doesn't ever shut up about the goal, does he?
No, he never shuts up. The thing is, he used to do that in training. Weirdly, he couldn't even kick a ball. Suddenly, he'd bang it in the top corner.
The centre halves. Yeah, obviously Leon didn't. I'm pretty sure I'm right in thinking Leon didn't actually arrive until January. Is that right?
He was later.
Yeah.
But we had a good experience at the back. We had obviously Skipper and Framo, and we just had people, and we had good young centre halves who were willing to step in when they needed to. So we were strong defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sort of Adam Barrett sometimes sort of goes underneath the radar a little bit from Gills fans. I know it skippered us for quite a few years in games and whatever else. But for me, I did he ever get sort of the praise technically he deserved? I don't think so, because I think for me, technically as well as heading it, I thought he was superb that season. What did you make of Adam?
Well, if you want to know what he did, we wouldn't have got promoted if we didn't have him. He was that crucial to us. You got to think he come into a team that we had good defenders, but we were defensively frail. We let in too many goals, and he just put in it, and he single-handedly told everyone what to do defensively, to a point where teams knew they weren't going to score goals against us, or at best they was going to score one, and that was because of him and the gaffer. Simple as.
Yeah.
Everyone, we said, being mid-centre midfield in front of the skipper was so easy.
Yeah. Then obviously, Leon and Framo, both experienced guys. They were unbelievable, both of them. Was Leon sort of, when he arrived, and then I'm pretty sure he scored on his debut as well. When Leon arrived, was it sort of, this is the final piece of the jigsaw?
Yeah, we was good, in a good place, but you just thought teams were, by that point, by the time he come, they were like, right, we're going to pick our biggest, strongest team to play against these, because you have to match them physically and aerially, because they're going to dominate us. And then suddenly we brought in Leon. I remember lining, and he just repelled everything. He's an absolute magnet to the ball. He blocked everything. He headed everything. And I looked at times where we was like 11, we'd be in a team of 11, and I'd be the only one under 6 foot. And one of my strengths was heading. So I remember taking corners that year. My whole career, I was the main threat for set pieces, except Gilling that season, where I took the corners, because I was so many people that could head it in. Frightening amount of height. And
but that's probably why we did so well, Charlie, wasn't it? That as well as our technical ability, physically and height-wise, we just dominated teams big time.
I loved being home, because we'd sit in the tunnel area, uncovered. The fans had already, by this point, they was really in. We were getting great numbers of fans there, and we stood in that tunnel and we just scared the life out of teams.
Could you feel it?
Yeah.
When you were standing in the tunnel?
I do this thing that I did my whole career. I would turn around and face the team as they walked out, and I'd try and joke with them or point out something they've got, and like distract them and try and be friendly with them. And they would look to it, and every week I'd get into them a bit, and that they'd look at me and go, and someone would say, Jesus, you've got a big team. And and I'd shout, oh, we've got another team. They're scared of us. We'll have to put a few more. I'll be putting a few more long throws in today. And I could see it in their faces that they was like, yeah, we've been working on that. We're ready for it. Don't worry. They just couldn't handle it. No way.
That's mad. That is mental, isn't it? That like an opposition player would turn around and go, "Christ, you lot are massive." Like that straight away mentally, you're like, "Well, cheers, we've won the game." Like,
Oh yeah,
no worries.
I reckon 5, 6, 7 times we was talking to players in there. You probably know someone on the other team, or somebody knows someone, or I've played against them with, and I go, yeah, we're big, aren't we? Or a big team, and they go, yeah, you lot are massive. And I'll be like, yeah, don't worry, let's see how you defend my long throws then. And instantly you can see them, they start laughing. Some of them pretend they're up for it, but nobody, even me, you don't want a team who can physically dominate you. And we did it to teams every week.
Because like we talk about obviously Priestfield being one of those places that is extremely daunting for teams, and you've seen our home record this season under Neil Harris. It's that second half of the season. It's been an absolute joke. Like the home record under Martin was also ridiculous. Is that what Priestfield is? Do you feel that when you're standing in that tunnel and you're looking out towards the Rainham end and you can see it packed and you can already see it sort of bubbling and you can hear the singing and the music going off? Is it a place that you think, yeah, this is we've already got it mentally because of these guys?
100%. We knew it. And we were so good that season scoring early goals. We'd score early goals and that's it. The just the feeling in the stadium is like, we'd used to come out second half, we'd be 3-0 up. We'd done it or 2-0 up so many times. The fans, that's it then. When you get 2-0 up in there, you weren't getting us. The fans were up and that's it. Every time we got a set piece, it become a bit of a like, oh, good luck dealing with this. And you could feel it and everyone loved it. And we just carried. In the end, it carried us through because we run out of legs a little bit. We didn't have a big squad of people that the gaffer relied on non-stop every week. People got injured. We had a few older bodies, so that's what got us through in the end. Just pure fans and players just buying into it, and that's what got us to the league.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, Joe Martin, Stephen Gregory, a couple of names. Stephen went completely underrated that year, but he hit the diag to Keds to get us promoted. So he didn't do too bad, did he?
He played really well, and we relied on so much away from home where we went a little bit more defensive because Payne at that point was useless away from home, and then he ended up turning into a really good defensive midfielder. But when he was younger, he was still really young then. He'd be great at getting on the ball, and we used him at home, and then away we would go with Steve or Charlie just in there running, and it worked a treat all season.
Yeah, obviously then Danny and Dion. I mean, what a partnership.
Well, that was the one. I know me and Keds told you when we was at the evening, and a few people. I remember when we had thought about Dion coming in, we knew we needed another striker. Birchie got injured, and he done it the year before. He done his ACL, and we knew he was going to be struggling. We had a couple of, but we thought we need one more striker. And then someone said Dion Burton's going to come, and I remember thinking, nah, he's old now. Like, is he what we want? We've got a lot of older players. We need a young, quick, get in the box finisher. That's what I was thinking. Well, I take it back because he was crap in training, Dion, but oh my God, he was unplayable in games some weeks. He used to just be useless in training all week. And then when it come to the game, he would beat up defenders, be in the box, score goals, headers, and he's exactly what we needed.
Wow. And then obviously, yeah, he goes under the radar a little bit, but Antonio German, he's not spoken about, is he? But yeah, speak about Antonio.
Oh, he's a character. I never knew what to make of him. He was one of them. He's a player that I don't know. He always had something going on in his brain. He overthought everything. But he had so much ability. He had so much ability. I don't know what he's doing nowadays. I hope everything's good with him, but he had so much ability. He should have had an amazing career and probably didn't hit the heights he should have because of the amount of ability he had.
And then obviously Martin speaks about a certain Mr. Bradley Dack. I remember him telling us a story about when he first coming in. He obviously taking you lot to France, and they needed one more, and yeah, they were going down the names, and they said like, oh yeah, like you said about Bradley Dack, and the youth team went, yeah, we were probably going to release him, like if you want or whatever. And yeah, how many goals did he get for the youth team? And it was like 20 or plus, and it was like, releasing him, you're having a laugh, you know. And he ended up coming to, I think he ended up coming to France with you in the end.
Yeah, he come.
But Dacky, yeah, I think for me, without his injuries, it'd have been in the Premier League, 100%.
He was incredible, and he was one of them. Nowadays, unfortunately, the game is a bit different. The way you come through, there's obviously rules, and rightly so, that probably youth team players have to get treated a lot differently to when I was a youth team player and but he had that grit and determination built in him. He was a lunatic, actually. He got sent off and booked every week in the youth team. So he was a throwback to when I was a youth team, because I got booked every week at like, and he'd get in and he'd come in and like, Dacky, hours a weekend for the youth team. Yeah, I scored 2, but I got sent off. And he'd be like, you just knew he had that. He'd come up and train, and he'd be messing around. Him and George would be messing around all the time. And then when it got into the game, he's willing to take on, willing to smash. Like, I would just boot him all the time. I'm telling you, people would have probably told you a lot about me. I weren't always the nicest in training. It was how I played. If I kicked people in games, I kicked you in training, and I obviously got into a lot of trouble a lot in my career. And like, I would literally just boot him so hard because he's a young. And he just come back every time, give as good as he got, and that's just how it. And that's how you knew he was going to end up being a pro. He was ready for the men's game.
Yeah, I mean, I know you obviously did the chat with you and Danny, and you spoke a little about the stories and whatever else. Is there anything little or big stories wise that you can sort of tell us from the year that maybe you haven't said on camera yet that you can give us?
I don't know. I probably have said all of it, to be honest, but there were just so many. I think the Gills fans probably would know all the Martin and stories, but they were just never. I think the first 2 days in the 2K, and Martin Allen asked us if we can all do you reckon we can hold our breath for a minute? Yeah, well, can you plank for a minute? Yeah, okay, well, let's plank underwater in the sea. So we had to try and plank underwater in the sea. And the thing is, we had in the 2K, there's so many of these, and we near one of the young lads nearly drowned. And we always joke about it and saying it, but he generally got pushed out of his depth. And he just thought, it's insane. But that stuff, this is at 6 a.m. in the morning after a run, and you just thought, and then you look back and you just think, all these times that he's got us to do these ridiculous things, he was just making sure we was up for it, because he knew if we was willing to do that, it would do anything. And yeah, I can't even remember who it was, but yeah, we nearly lost a player for day 1 in 2K. Been a lot different season if that would have happened.
100%. When did you feel that in the season? When did you feel that the title is ours? Was there a moment that you sort of all sat down as a group and you just went, yeah, this is the turning point. This is when we've probably done it.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we were a confident group. So after the first few results, you thought, yeah, we're going to be a tough here. And then I just mentioned it earlier on. We had that meeting, and the gaffer was like, we can get 128 points. Yeah. I think you just thought, do you know what? Why not? I think we was on like 30 points at that point. After you might be able to look back for 12 or 13 games, or maybe a couple more, and you just thought, we've got loads of games left. And then the famous story, he put 90 points up on the board, and he put 90 points and then Benidorm next to it. And every time we got points, he'd rub it out, put 87. And every time we won a game, we'd all get brave and we'd rub out Benidorm and put Vegas. And then we'd come back in here on Monday morning and it would be 72 Benidorm. So he changed it every Monday. He'd be in before us and change it back. We changed it every week. We'd change it to a different venue because we're not going Benidorm. Let's go somewhere. Right? And then And then we won the league and went Benidorm. It was an unbelievable
I think. Well, we were given a question, Charlie, from people that listen to us, and correct me if I'm wrong. During that season, weren't there one game that you ended up getting yourself knocked out? Then you played. Then you come back on. Then you went down again. Then come back on again. Well, surely it's against all scientific rules that you shouldn't be doing that. But explain what happened.
Well, this was before concussion protocol, obviously. And, but don't worry, all the physios and doctors were trying to get me off. They weren't. But back then, you could still overpower the physio, and so basically, the ball's come over my head. I followed it over, and as I've gone to head it, as in to head it on, I think it was York player nipped in front of me, and it was a clean headbutt to the side of his head. Both knocked out instantly. I only remember that because someone's described it to me. I don't remember any of that.
Right.
All I remember is coming around and physio come on. He said, and I said to him straight away, this is no joke. I said, Lynn's put the sandwiches in the fridge. That's how I knocked was dead. And to this day, we'd laugh about it because I'd been talking to my wife a week before about the kids' lunches or something, and that must have come back to me. And then straight away, about 30 seconds later, he was like, "No, listen, we need to get you off." But I sort of knew what was going on. And then he did all the questions. What's the score? I knew what the score was. I knew what the time was in the game. I sort of like, and that's it. But I was like, I'm not coming off. I was like, and we'd had 3 subs. We'd made 3 subs. I was like, listen, you can say all you want. There's no way I'm coming off. So I went off to the bench, and Martin said, "You can't go on. I've been told you can't go on." And by this time, I was sounded nothing wrong with me. Martin was like, he sounds like he's fine. I was like, Gaffer, let me go back on. So Gaffer went, listen, if you're all right, go back on left midfield. Stay right near bench. So I went back on left midfield. And as soon as I went back on, I was running around. I was like, kept vomiting in my mouth. So I was vomiting in my mouth and just spitting it out onto the pitch. And all their players going to me, "You can't." I was like, "No, I'm fine." But like, and then the ball come over and I went to head it and just completely missed it. It went out for a throw.
I think I remember that.
It was like my thing. Like, hit the diag, head it down. Like, I went to head it, missed the ball. It went out for a throw. I nearly fell over. And the gaffer went, he pulled me off. He said, "No, you got to come and sit down. You're not right." And then I was going to him, "Let me on. Just put me at striker. I'll just run around." And he was like, the physio, "Don't let me on." I was like, "Gaffer, I'm fine." So I just went on at striker, and I absolutely smashed someone because I was about 2-3 seconds late to a tackle. Got yellow card. Managed to get through the rest of the game. And then on the way, I drove home on my own and everything. Like, nowadays, it just wouldn't happen. No. And to be fair, the physio and doctors, they was doing all they can to get me off. But back then, I was taking it into my own hands. I just wanted to play.
I don't think anyone's heard that story. So that's a bit of an exclusive for us.
Yeah.
Christ, oh my! That was the night that Cody sort of rocked back up on loan and scored, weren't it? I think.
Don't remember.
You don't remember.
Although the sad thing is, which is poor, that I'm pretty certain the guy who I headbutted fractured his skull. I'm pretty sure I found that next day that I headbutted him square and then he fractured his skull. So it was a real nasty head clash. So I don't even know who it was. Unfortunately, I've never really looked. I've never checked.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's fast forward then to Torquay at home. We just needed the 3 points. We just needed 3 points to secure promotion. It was a lovely hot summer's day at Priestfield. And everyone sort of expected that we were going to do it. The smile in your face is all, Charlie, just me talking about it. And a long ball from a Stephen Gregory diag over the shoulder to Gills' heroes, Danny Kedwell, who smashes it in the net to get us promoted. I've described it well enough. You, from a title winning midfielder and a promotion winning midfielder, talk us through that Torquay day.
Honestly, I don't. I have had this discussion I literally remember nothing from the game. Every year when it goes up the highlights of the game, the only things I know about the game are the goals because I've watched them on the highlights. I remember the warm up because we done some mad warm up where we was all picking the gaffer another bit of his genius. He knew we was all a bit nervous for this game.
Right.
He come and done the warm up instead of James, and he stood in the middle and said, "Right, just pick an activity. Don't make it. Let's get the fans involved. Make it as stupid as you want." So people are doing like dancing as one of the, and we did it in a circle, and instantly it took all the pressure and made it. And I, to this day, I promise you now, I don't remember 1 minute of the game. And
Yeah.
I remember celebrating after, like, and everything from the final whistle onwards, I remember clearly. But honestly, it could have been any game. I don't remember any of it. Like the 90 minutes, not 1 minute of it. I don't remember. I don't even remember the goals live.
What was that down to? Why was that? What? How comes?
I just think we were so confident we was going to, bro. See, it was like a matter of time, and the whole way through the game, he's just like, we're gonna win this. We're gonna win the league, or before the game, then after the game, and then so much happens. As soon as that whistle goes, so much happens that it just puts the game. You just forget. I genuinely don't remember anything that happened in that game. I don't remember the goals apart from watching them back. I remember after. I can tell you some great stories about after the game.
Go for it. Go for it. Tell us. Tell us. You walked into that one now. Tell us.
No, I can't.
Go on, do it. You got to.
No, we had some great nights out.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Is that as far as you're going with it?
Yeah, the away game that we had where we was all in the crowd singing with the fans for the last away game. That was genius. I love that.
That's awesome. Just
from then on, the gaffer said, "Yeah, next week you can have a few beers at the game, get in the crowd, get the chant in. I'm going to play the young lads, and I want to hear every single one of you starting a chant off." And I was like, "Nah, this is going to be silly." It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. I remember being there that day, and it was just a party. And literally, you were sat to the left of us.
Yeah.
And we were just singing your name. We were going like, "Yeah, Charlie starts the chant or whatever," and it just it just carried on, didn't it? And it was just a party.
The best thing about that day is Dion got everyone singing, sign him up, and then they never gave him a contract. So
yeah, we didn't do enough, did we? We didn't do enough to get him the contract, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, the top. I mean, we could have won it at Cheltenham.
Yeah,
we decided to blow it deliberately or not.
This is what I mean. I don't remember any of them games. The Cheltenham one, I don't even remember the score. To this day, the only I remember are the ones early on in the season. We must have just been in autopilot because if you asked me to tell you the score of the Cheltenham game, I couldn't even tell you. And I can't remember the goals of the Torquay game except when I watch them back.
Is that the same? Is that the same for the Wimbledon game, for the title winning one?
Yeah. Honestly, sorry, the Wimbledon one. What did I say?
The Torquay one, Cheltenham one, yeah.
No, even the Wimbledon one. That's what I was talking about. The Wimbledon one when we. I don't even remember the goals. Honestly, until I watch them back, it's crazy. But if you ask me back early on in the season, I'll tell you play for play, 90 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I must be something to do with anticipation of, and just remembering so much more either side of the games that it makes the games all fade out.
Yeah, I remember Danny's, like, obviously you've watched goals back and you can see Danny's celebration for the Wimbledon one, and I love how he just gives the little arm to the Wimbledon fans as if he somewhat cares.
Yeah, he didn't. I tell you, he didn't care.
Yeah, he'll be sort of calling us up later saying, "I did care, and I've watched your podcast with Charlie, and I did care." So, that Wimbledon game. I mean, you obviously don't remember the game, but the celebrations after, I've seen the photos in the changing room. It looks messy as anything. Was it?
Yeah, I honestly, it was so good because everyone just was and the gaffer was so buzzing. I'd been lucky that I'd already had 3 promotions in my career before this one. And I just, the happiness in that change room was unrivaled. Any time in my career, there was just so many people that were just desperate to get promoted, and being the champions as well was just incredible.
Everyone speaks about the Player of the Year night as well. That it
Yeah.
got somewhat a little bit just, and Martin especially.
Yeah, it was. I turned up completely battered to that. So
What, you were already pre-drinking?
I was battered when I got there. Yeah, well, I'd been on it for 3 days straight, I think, at that point.
So where did you end up going? Did you end up going to Benidorm or not?
Yeah, we went Benidorm.
Oh, you end up going to Benidorm in the end?
Yeah, we went Benidorm, and then that was some stuff. I'll tell you them privately, them ones.
Yeah. Is there anything that can be told on the podcast? What happened in Benidorm?
Yeah. So the one thing I can say, the gaffer won't mind me saying it. We had every morning. We had to be at the bar at 10 a.m.
Right.
So 10 a.m. till, I think we set the rule. You had to be together 10 a.m. till 2 a.m. or something every day. If you weren't there, there was punishments. It was just all a bit of a laugh, really.
Yeah.
And day one, we're all sitting there. Everyone drinking, staff, everyone, like no one separate. We're all drinking. Gaffer is battered. So at the take his room. There's about 4 of us took him up to his room. This is about 2 o'clock, so we've only been out for a few hours. Fast forward 4 o'clock, 2 hours later, Gaffer turns up. He's had 2 hours sleep, come back out, starts drinking. 3 hours later, so battered, we had to take him to his room again. So we've taken the bed twice already the same day. It's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We've gone out into town at night. Gaffer's turned up, so he's been to bed. He's been to bed, got drunk, gone back to bed 3 times in one day. Because he wasn't a big drinker. Like, he wasn't, but he just threw himself into it. And yeah, we had to put him to bed a couple of times, and he always kept coming back out. It was genius.
Who was the biggest character? I can imagine you were one of them.
No, I was quite quiet compared to everyone else. We had some characters in there. Who would have been the worst?
Keds. I reckon Keds.
Obviously, we all know Keds. You know,
we all know Keds is.
Probably. Do you know who was the best on that? The skipper.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of him. We're sitting in a bar. He's got goggles on and what are they called? The snorkel. He's got a snorkel, and they're just pouring beer into it while he's drinking it through a snorkel, thinking, "Oh, he'll stop in a minute because he'll have to breathe." Pint after pint after pint. His goggles are filled up with beer, so he can't even see his eye. And after a while, we was like, "Ad, how was you doing that?" He's like, "I was breathing. I had a little bit of a gap, so I was breathing from my nose and drinking through my mouth. I could have done it all."
Wow. Okay. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Let's fast forward to the summer then. We've obviously all spoken when you and Danny come back, and Martin as well, that you come back to the training ground. You had no tracksuits. The grass was overgrown. It was an absolute shambles. You laugh about it now, but you must have been pretty pissed off at the time.
Well, at the very first time it happened, we laughed because we was like, "Oh, this is funny," like it. But just assumed it gets sorted. But then it goes on a bit longer, and still nothing's getting sorted. And then I got a call from the chairman to say that I was no longer needed at the club, and I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? We just got promoted. I played 40 odd games." Or he's like, "Yeah, well, we brought you in to get as part of our promotion look, but," he goes, "you're one of the biggest earners. You've got to go." And I was like, I rang the gaffer up and was like, "Gaffer, I've got to go." He went, "Yeah, I spoke to him. Just there's nothing I can really do about it." But so the whole of pre-season, I didn't train once with the first team for about 3 weeks. I was linked with everyone. I nearly went to Southend. And then I remember the week before the season, I'd been training with Pato and the reserves playing. I had not played one. I don't think I played a pre-season fixture. I might have come on a few times or something. And then the gaffer rang me on the Monday before the first game. And he went, "So what's happening? Are you going or what?" And I went, "I don't think so. I think I'm staying." He went, "Good. You're training with me today and you'll start at the weekend." So
that is Martin Allen all over, isn't it?
yeah, and that's it. I literally turned up for a promotion. We had promoted, and then I was told, "Yeah, we don't need you next year." And I was like, "What? We need you off the wage bill." So that was it. I thought that's it. I'm gone. And then when the gaffer went, new manager come in, and he said, "I heard we need you out." I was like, "Apparently so." So I was like, "But I think I'll be here till the end of the season." I told him, and then I was. And I was absolutely gutted that whole season after League One. I was like so devastated. Everything
Is
that
it
we
is it still sort of a is it still sort of a bitter taste in your mouth, a bit of pill to swallow almost?
yeah, yeah, especially now when we've got a group from the promotion year, and I just thought if we'd have kept that same team together, and we'd have had a really good season the next season. Same, I know we started off bang average, but we had everything stacked against us, and I still to this day I don't think we ever moaned about it publicly until it all fell through. I don't think anyone knew what was going on. We kept it quiet. We just dealt with it. And if we'd have had a good pre-season, we'd have pushed. But
Yeah.
we'd have pushed for a top half, maybe even a playoff place. I think with a couple of people brought in.
Yeah. Yeah. We never knew as fans. We never knew sort of as fans what was going on. We sort of heard rumours about yourself that you were sort of being pushed out the door and whatever else, and we were like, what the hell's going on here? And it was crazy for us because we were sort of on a come down from winning the league, and we're like, yeah, great, we can have a right good crack at it in League One, and all you boys can play and that and whatever else. And then did Martin add as well as he could in the summer? Probably not, but his hands were probably tied.
Yeah,
Knowing what obviously happened to you, and then just sort of then injuries happened and whatever else, and then Martin, and obviously still to this day being sacked 2 months into the season after winning the league is just an absolute joke. I mean, you guys must have just been absolutely devastated when he come and said goodbye.
yeah, it was an awful time because was we like we sort of knew things weren't rosy between I don't know the manager and the club. We didn't know really that, but at no point did we ever think there was a chance of him going. We weren't even in that bad a position really at the time. I can't remember where we sat in the league, but it's not as if we was ever in doubt of being relegated. It didn't even, and that was with a shambolic pre-season. You just thought that can't be. And then when it all come around, it happened so quickly for me. This could happen till he's gone, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah,
like awful. And to be fair, the players ended up sitting, but at first it was almost like, how can we? Who's gonna? How can we play for anyone after what's come in? You just felt, but you've got to because you're players and you're representing the club, not the manager. So we ended up having an okay finish to the season, and I'm just glad that when I left, Gills were in a when I joined on loan for them 4 games. It was a real bad time in the history of Gills. That not winning away from home in the League Two, and then when I left, they was in a really good position in League One. So that always helped me. I loved the club. I loved my time there, and I knew that when I left, it was in a better position when I started, and that's what you always want.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously, just to sort of wrap it up. Obviously, you've probably been keeping an eye on Gills this season, Charlie, and it looked like for a while they was effectively staring National League in the face, and obviously the Americans come along and saved us, and we're in League Two for next year. But yeah, just from an outside point of view looking in, yeah, give us your thoughts on how you saw Gills at the start of the season. Probably
Yeah.
worried, but yeah, give us your thoughts.
You do worry because obviously I'd heard I know the manager. I played with him at Millwall and he's just a great guy. He's a great manager. I remember when he first went to Gills, I just thought I couldn't think of a better fit. He's really is a top manager, and then unfortunately he's had struggles of getting in players that he wanted, and I know how hard that was for him getting in players. And I have no doubt going forward now where it is that like they're in a good place, hopefully going in for next year. And you just can't. You just hope that this season and the last couple of seasons has been a bit of just a little bit of a down in what's going to be a bright future.
Do you think Neil's definitely the right man to take Gills
Yeah,
forward?
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I think if he gets into players that he wants, he has a pre-season. I think you'll see immediate changes, and I have no doubts at all. I still think it's a great fit.
Perfect. Yeah, just to tell Gills fans, what you up to these days, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm working in football over in Australia, and I'm enjoying it. We obviously run like big football tours and camps, and we're in, I think it's the tier 3 up in the Gold Coast in Queensland. So I just love it. The place is beautiful. The weather is incredible, and my family loves it. Obviously, the football stand isn't quite the same as it is in England, but the lifestyle is incredible, and we're having a lot of fun here. We'll probably be back in England at some point, but at the minute we're just enjoying the sun and the beach. I live like 5-10 minutes from the sea, so yeah, it's incredible.
What about future coaching ambitions in England? Do you think you could see yourself in a senior setup one day?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I've been lucky. I've already had the taste of it. I took over as I went from Yeovil, assistant manager into interim manager. So I took Yeovil and I was in charge on my own, really, very little support. I had a couple of people, good sports scientists helping me out, but it was an amazing time. I loved it. And it was just that I feel like the future of me is still probably with kids at the minute. I still think I've got a lot to give when it comes to coaching, but obviously I'd love to be a first team head coach or a first team coach and working in football. I wouldn't want to do anything different. So yeah, the future of my life will be definitely in football.
Love it. Perfect way to round it off. Yeah, you've been listening to our title winning midfielder Charlie Lee this morning. Thank you. Goodbye.